Autumn in Brussels is forever wrapped in an impenetrable, lingering mist. I was in my third year of living in this small coastal town. I had grown accustomed to being roused at dawn by the sound of harbor foghorns, to the fallen plane tree leaves carpeting the cobblestones, and to the quiet, uneventful rhythm of days spent tending to a shop filled with yellowing pages. People often describe my temperament as aloof, much like this perpetually misty city, gentle yet distant, never forming deep connections with others. I had assumed my life would remain this way, quiet, steady, devoid of ripples or passion, until that rainy dusk when Elliot wandered into my small, secluded world. It was a cold, late autumn rain, fine and persistent, dampening the brickwork of the old street. As twilight deepened and the streets grew deserted, I was tidying the bookstall outside the shop when a pair of brown leather shoes, flecked with rain and mist, came to a halt before me. As I looked up, I found myself gazing into a pair of gentle, deep-set eyes. The man wore a well-tailored dark gray trench coat, his shoulders dusted with tiny droplets of rain. The evening breeze stirred his blonde hair, and his features held that blend of warmth and reserve unique to an English gentleman. He clutched a crumpled old map in his hand, his fingers long, clean, and slender, and his voice low and soft, mingled with the sound of the rain. "Sorry to bother you, but I'm looking for an out-of-print collection of Yeats' poetry. I heard this shop might have a copy." His name was Elliot. An architect from London, he was traveling alone across Europe during his vacation, wandering aimlessly until he arrived in this misty harbor town. I did in fact possess an out-of-print Yeats collection, a rare copy left behind by the previous owner, featuring a weathered cover and gentle, elegant typography. I turned and stepped inside to search for it. The warm, amber glow of the lights fell upon the pages and upon him as he stood quietly in the doorway. He didn't look around the shop but simply watched the rain outside, standing tall with a clean, refined air, looking for all the world like a character who had stepped out of a vintage film. As I handed him the poetry collection, his fingertips lightly brushed the yellowed cover and a faint, sparkling light. The pure, moving joy of encountering a cherished treasure lit up his eyes. "It's perfect," he murmured in admiration, looking up at me with eyes full of tenderness. "Thank you. This is the greatest stroke of luck of my entire trip." It rained all night that day, and he didn't leave right away. We sat facing each other across an old wooden table talking about poetry, architecture, the seasonal landscapes of the northern and southern hemispheres, and the paths of our lives spent in solitude. I have always been a woman of few words, rarely opening up to others, yet with Elliot, I found myself inexplicably willing to share more. He was an excellent listener, gentle and patient, never interrupting my rambling thoughts nor prying into my past. He would earnestly acknowledge my scattered emotions, genuinely appreciate my niche interests, and tell me that a quiet soul is never ordinary. The evening breeze drifted through the half-open wooden window, carrying the scent of rain-drenched greenery and the ink of book pages circulating through the cramped bookstore. The soft amber light fell gently as if embracing our two lonely figures. In that moment, ripples stirred across the long, silent lake of my heart for the very first time. The days Elliot spent in that small town became the brightest, most radiant light of my time living abroad. He would arrive in the early morning with a warm latte and a flaky croissant, keeping me company in the quiet, empty bookstore. In the afternoon, as sunlight pierced the mist, he would take me through every old street by the harbor, sharing stories about the architecture and design of the historic buildings. At dusk, by the seaside, he would watch the sunset sink below the horizon with me, observing the evening breeze as it stirred the waves to lap gently against the embankment. He understood my quiet nature and my solitude. Knowing I disliked crowds and bustle, he never took me to noisy markets or taverns. Instead, he simply accompanied me as I sat quietly, strolled at a leisurely pace, and admired the scenery. I am occasionally sensitive and prone to overthinking, habitually keeping others at a distance. Yet, he never pressured me. Instead, he waited patiently and gently, using a tenderness that was just right to melt away the hard, protective shell I had wrapped around myself. Our love was never a whirlwind rush of passion. Rather, it was like the gentle, permeating atmosphere of an autumn day in Europe, a steady, harmonious connection. There were no fiery declarations or deliberate attempts to please. A mere meeting of eyes or a fleeting touch of fingertips was enough to know our hearts were in sync. I grew to cherish the evening breeze, the sunset, and the tenderness in his eyes. I became accustomed to his company, his soft whispers, and all the warmth this misty harbor town held because of him. I even began to secretly hope that my drifting life might finally find a secure place to call home. Yet, I never forgot that he was a traveler, a passerby who did not belong to this misty harbor, and certainly not to me. As late autumn drew to a close and the mist lifted, his vacation came to an end. On the eve of his departure, we sat once more at the wooden table in the bookstore. Outside, the moonlight was cool and the evening breeze crisp. There was no sound of rain, nor the tender murmurs of days past. A quiet silence hung in the air. We both knew full well that this unexpected encounter was destined to be fleeting from the very start. Elliot gently placed a collection of Yeats' poetry before me. His fingertips traced the cover, and his voice held a barely concealed huskiness. I want to leave it here, in the gentlest place of all. I looked up at him, my eyes stinging, yet I maintained a gentle composure. Why not take it with you? It's a book you've been searching for so long. He raised his gaze to mine, his eyes filled with moonlight and regret, a tenderness so profound it made my heart ache. Because the place where this book truly belongs is by your side. I can take the pages with me, but I cannot take the evening breeze of this place, nor the way my heart stirred when I met you. He did not ask me to make him stay. I did not speak of my reluctance to let him go. When adults meet in a foreign land, the connection is always clear-eyed and restrained. We crossed mountains and seas to meet, yet ultimately could not overcome the barriers of geography, daily life, and our diverging paths. He had his career and his home waiting far away. I had my life of solitude and steadfastness amidst constant wandering. We were unexpected surprises to one another, but never meant to be each other's destiny. The next morning, I went to the harbor to see him off. The ferry's whistle pierced the morning mist as it prepared to depart for distant London. He stood on the deck, his trench coat fluttering in the sea breeze, waving to me from afar. His eyes held the same gentleness, yet lacked the warmth they once possessed. I stood quietly on the shore, no waving, no tears, simply watching him, watching the ferry slowly pull away from the harbor until it vanished into the horizon where sea met sky. There was no farewell, no embrace, not even a single goodbye. Some loves are simply meant to end at the encounter. They remain buried in the heart, unspoken. In the days that followed, I continued to tend that corner bookstore, watching the mist rise and fall, the tides ebb and flow. Yet whenever the evening breeze drifted through the window or the sun dipped below the horizon, I would recall that rainy dusk, that gentle traveler from England, and that brief yet magnificent romance in a foreign land. I often opened the copy of Yeats' poetry he left behind. A faint scent of pine, his signature fragrance, still lingers between the pages. The lines are filled with tender words of love, yet I will never again meet the man who listened so intently to me and understood the quiet depths of my soul. In time, I came to realize that this romance abroad was never a source of regret. He had crossed mountains and seas to reach me, gifting me an entire autumn of tenderness and passion, healing my long-held loneliness and solitude, and showing me that even a quiet soul deserves to be cherished. He walked with me through a barren stretch of my life's journey, then made a graceful exit, leaving behind no entanglements, no lingering burdens. The winds of the misty harbor blow year after year, and the sunset remains as gentle as ever. I remain alone, yet I no longer fear solitude. Perhaps this is what the finest of encounters looks like. I ask not for companionship from dawn till dusk, nor to spend the rest of my life together. I ask only for that moment of meeting and the warmth shared, for the time someone paused amidst the vast sea of humanity to walk a brief stretch of the journey with me. The evening breeze understands my heart, and the mountains and seas hold the tenderness within. That spark of romance in a foreign land ended with the encounter itself, yet it made the rest of my life complete.